public comment on items not on the agenda?
Well, Josh, I would hate to let an opportunity slide here.
Please, please.
So for folks who may not be aware, it now appears as if our neighbor to the east, Granite County, may have some interest in participating in the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So as a result, we are giving them a little extra time to think that through and to begin the public process on their end. So that's good news to help connect some dots.
For sure, more good news. Way to go, the folks to the east. All right, thank you. Okay, in terms of action items, our first presenter is Dave Wall.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's good to see everyone again. Although every time I'm in some of these Teams meetings with you all, I really recognize how much I miss having actual in-person meetings, and keep hoping that we can do that again soon. But that's okay. It's still good to see everybody. So this is a resolution I have in front of you that would give procurement preference to businesses owned by people of color, women, or folks with disabilities. This is an attempt to try to deal with some of the historical inequities that we have, kind of based in the structures of our society, that tend to be discriminatory, not necessarily even in intent, although perhaps in the past it was, but certainly nowadays there may not be the intent to be discriminatory, but there's still perhaps the outcomes that are unequal between groups of people. As an example, I would mention that, let's say a business owner needs some more credit, and so is applying for that, goes to a lending institution. And that, of course, is based on in the lending institution's perspective. That's really based on risk. And so they're going to look at assets, what kind of collateral and things like that these business owners have to make it less risky. We know that there's throughout history there's been a wealth gap between certain groups of people. People of color, for example, they have not, through hundreds of years, they haven't accumulated the kind of wealth that other folks have, starting kind of way back in time, and so it's kind of a generational thing, right? You don't get the money from parents, and home ownership is lower, and all of these things. So there's simply a wealth gap, and they don't have the amount of assets. So this is really more of a risk for that lending institution, and so credit becomes more expensive. The greater the risk, the higher the interest rate, for example. And so this business will have greater expense monthly, and they'll need greater revenue in order to cover those expenses, which means that when some of these businesses do bid out for a job, their bids are more likely to be higher because they need to have more revenue, because they have greater expenses because of this wealth. It's this straight line from a wealth gap in history all the way to their bids are more likely to be higher through no fault of their own. And it's not the lending institution's fault either. They're just doing their job the way they're supposed to do it. There's inequities built into the actual system. And so that's why, and this is an attempt to have kind of a correction for that inequity, and simply to create a more level playing field, so that all businesses have a more fair shot at doing business with Missoula County. And looking at the recent tragic death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a lot of talk about what she has accomplished for women's rights, and you read all these lists of things like women be able to get a credit card or a loan without a co-signer and things like this. These are fairly recent. These are kind of recent events, and so how is it that we expect that history will not have some impact on things today? So that's why I really do feel like there needs to be a bit of a corrective action there to make sure that these businesses owned by these groups of people that have been disadvantaged for so long need to take place, just to be fair. Nobody's calling anybody else a a racist or a sexist or anything like that. It's just built in. It's just built into the system, and we're correcting that. I did. So that's my rationale for this resolution. I did talk to folks in the community. I reached out to some folks, to business owners, to see what they thought of it. I spoke with Sarah Calhoun, who's the owner of the Red Ants Pants, and she was very supportive of it. She said she hadn't really she's heard of this. Obviously, the federal government does this kind of thing, and several states do. The state of Montana does not, by the way, but several states have procurement preference for certain groups of people, and she hadn't heard of that really at the county level before. And so it's nice to be able to, as usual, kind of lead the pack, to kind of lead the way. And so I don't think she could be here today. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll have some public comment, but some of the folks that I talked to, I think, couldn't make it today. But she mentioned she loves ticking the box that says women-owned business when she herself sends out a bid for procurement to some government entity. I spoke to Ian Roof. He is with SNK Technologies. He's a vice president over there and is really their procurement professional. And looking at the SNK Technologies website, they have right on the front page of their website that they are in a Section 8A business, and that has to do with this Small Business Administration program that I mentioned in the resolution, and that gives, so they are already registered as a company with the federal government. It's just the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. And Ian mentioned in their history, I think they started in. Let's see, they started in 1999 with about $150,000 in seed money. And he said in 21 years later, here they are, they've been able to provide $47 million in dividends back to the tribe that they're owned by. And they're able to compete on a level playing field with any company now. But that help, it gave them a leg up, having that, being part of that program. It gave them the opportunity to build, and that's really what this is about. It's just giving these companies a little bit of a leg up to be able to compete with other companies, and I think SNK Technologies is a really good example of that. I've also spoken to Coulter Benetone. He owns a couple of businesses here in town, and he is already a vendor of Missoula County. He sells some medical supplies to the offices of emergency management, and he's had a spinal injury and is in a wheelchair. And also was very appreciative. Both Ian Roof and Coulter expressed thanks for bringing this forward. They both think it's a good idea and is a real help to their kind of businesses. And finally, I spoke to Patty Cox at the University of Montana. She's part of what's called PTAC, or the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So they help local businesses with government procurement, especially federal government procurement. Because there is a lot there's a lot of forms to fill out and things like that. It's a real process. So they do great work all over the state. She's the representative in Missoula, but they have several representatives all over the state to help Montana businesses get some government procurement. And she said rules like these are very often helpful to provide more competition. So those are the folks that I've talked to, and that's kind of the reason why I think this resolution is necessary, to make sure that there's simply more fairness in procurement for these businesses. Do you all have any questions for me before we open up?
Dave, I had a question for you. Functionally, how would this work? Let's say the county's putting a service out to bid. You can just call it an unnamed service, and you get 3 vendors. And one of the vendors fits one of the categories you're describing. What happens next?
Sure. If they are actually certified by some of these, like the Small Business Administration, the federal government, or some of these other private organizations I mentioned here in the resolution that do certifying work, they would get a preference of, if it's simply like a quote. So we're only going to base the decision on a vendor based on cost. Vendors that are certified would get a 5%, get their quote lowered by 5%.
Okay.
Now, if it's many of our procurements, of course, are not only based on price. Price is always a factor, or almost always a factor, but there's other factors too. And so, if let's say we send out an RFP and we get proposals back where there's cost and also other factors like business history and past performance, things like that. We generally score those just on a numerical scale. And so again, any business that is certified would get an increase in their score, again, by 5%, that same 5%.
On all the categories on which they are scored.
On the total score.
On the total score.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I'd love to hear if there are members of the public in attendance who'd like to speak.
Absolutely, sure thing.
And Annie has a note here asking, there's an unidentified caller on the line.
And I see Sandy has her hand up.
Okay.
Please go for it, Sandy, and welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for asking for public comment on this. I am not in support of this. I understand that this comes from a place of good heart. However, you say that you want to have a level playing field, but you also want to give folks a leg up, and you can't really have both with this. What this is doing is giving preferential treatment to people or businesses based solely on their gender or on the color of their skin. And I think that this is blatantly sexist and blatantly racist if you do this. You shouldn't have to put your race or your sex down when putting in a bid. I personally have a female boss in my day job who's doing quite well for herself. The majority of our city council are females. We're doing just fine. And like you mentioned earlier, or like David mentioned earlier, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she famously said, quote, "I ask no favor for my sex. All I ask of our brethren is that they take their feet off of our necks." End quote. And what this is doing is putting their feet on other people's necks. So I cannot support this. I hope that that all three of you do not support this, and thank you for taking my public comment.
Thanks.
Yeah, do you mind if I respond to that just very quickly?
Absolutely, please do.
First of all, I very much appreciate that point of view. I definitely see where Sandy's coming from there. Again, this is an idea that if it were true that we are all equal now, we all have the same opportunity now, then I think she would be correct. But there are still, again, these relics of history that they're real and they're there, so that certain groups of people are actually starting behind the starting line. So all we're trying to do in this is get people up to the same position, just because of that history. I do understand when folks are in a position where they have often been in a favored position for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit more competition, it often feels like that's discriminatory because they're no longer in as much of a favored position. So I definitely get that, but that is certainly not the intent of this. And I think this would not be discriminatory against any particular group of people, but simply trying to level the playing field, like I said.
Dave, I want to just add my 2 cents to this and say, until the day comes when men and women receive the same pay for the same work, and until the day comes that race is not a predictor of a person's eventual wealth, we need to level the playing field. And right now it's not. The system and the culture are rigged to a certain degree against some people and for others based on the virtue of their birth, things that they had nothing to, no say in. And no one alive right now, especially on this call or anywhere else, is actually attempting to perpetuate these things. This is the world we've been born into. And it took hundreds and hundreds of years to get here. Hopefully it won't take hundreds of years to change it, but it won't change unless we act with intention. And hopefully there will be a day when we don't need to do anything like this. When we look across businesses and governments and see men, women, and people of color and white people all spread out evenly. But that's not where we're at right now. Right now, you see in positions of power, you see white men. And we're working to change that, but we actually have to work to change it. And this is one step. This is just one very small step. This is a giant thing. Took hundreds of years for us to get here, but we should take this step.
I agree, Josh, and that's very well said.
Anyone else like to have any comment, or Dave or Juan? We could entertain a motion.
I would.
Who is this?
Brian, am I on?
Yeah, Brian, we'd love to know your whole name.
Brian Vasika.
Oh, great.
And I just want to say I run a business in town, and you guys can sugarcoat it however you want, but you're not going to give me a bid and you're going to pay somebody else more solely based on the color of my skin or my gender. That's racist and sexist by definition. So you guys can tell whatever lie to yourself you have to, but you're racist and you're sexist. By definition, you're going to give a bid preference based on somebody's gender or the color of their skin. That's racism. And I thought there was anti-discrimination laws to protect against this. And really the only thing I can assume is going on here is you guys are all Democrats. Democrats throughout history have been notoriously racist. And I mean, here we go again. I know you guys are going to vote for it because you're racist and you're sexist. And that's all I have to say.
Right?
I think that comment goes a long way in talking about how important this issue is and how people feel about it, and maybe it's a good indicator of how we got into this position in the first place. And I don't mind telling people I am a Democrat and I'm very liberal, and I'm proud of that.
I guess, sorry, is there other comment? Is there other public comment? I have to agree with you, Dave, and I completely understand the perspective of both of Sika's, but I think that this is an attempt to scratch at the generational and systemic inequities, and this is a step I think that we can do, and I'm proud to support it. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the resolution to give procurement preferences to businesses owned by people of color and women and people with disabilities.
Yeah, I'll second that motion and just add first some words of thanks to you, County Auditor Dave Wall. I think that you have demonstrated that not only does the county auditor providing checks and balances in county government, but that you can play a powerful role in helping think through positive policy change for Missoula County. I would agree with Commissioner Slotnick entirely that I hope if we pass this today that there will come a day when we can repeal this, because we have reached a point where the playing field has been leveled. And frankly, it's a bunch of hogwash that this is characterized as any sort of a racist move on our part. It's recognizing the point in history that we are at, and we have not achieved the finish line that we need to truly say that equity is realized for all. And I think this is a step in the right direction, and I'm proud to support this today.
Great, thank you very much. All that. Juan, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to, I see Anna Conley's on the phone, and I didn't know if Dave, perhaps Wall, could explain the legal process you went through to vet this, if that would be helpful.
Sure. Well, anything that comes before you in these meetings goes through a system, a computer system called Civic Clerk. So it goes through the county attorney's office, and it also goes in front of our risk manager and risk management before it comes to you, to make sure that these things do pass legal muster and pass risk muster also, which is I am very grateful to Anna and her whole team over there for providing that service. I think it's essential and it's wonderful.
Great. All right, then I believe we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
If I could speak
absolutely.
before you get to your motion. Brian West, for anybody who can't hear me. So one thing that I have discussed with Dave in this matter is that where the commission is considering adopting preference along these lines, that you should have some sort of documentation or review of what your justification, your base are. I know that Dave has given you some of the contacts that he has made and the discussions he's had. But the recommendation for us is any time that you are making these sort of decisions that you have documentation that justifies why you are adopting a preference of this matter.
I wonder, Brian, could you elaborate on that? Does are you suggesting that the whereas statements in the resolution are not adequate to support the therefore be it resolved of the resolution?
What I'm suggesting is that it would be ideal for the commission to be able to specifically point to how this preference will support the goals provided by that. I know that Dave has referenced some discussions with the university. Is there actual numbers that are attached to that, Dave?
As far
Studies.
as like the number, say that again, Brian?
Are there studies? Are there numbers? Is there actual documentation that supports the specificity with this bidding preference?
I mean, Brian, are you looking for proof of inequity?
Yes. Basically, what I'm suggesting is that anytime we have a preference, especially one that's related to gender or race, that we want to be on a very firm basis that the actual preference is narrowly tailored to specifically help those that it's aimed at doing. And so what I'm cautioning, and I had a discussion with Dave earlier this year when the preference was brought up, was that we want to make sure that we have very specific and very supportive objective data that this preference will be of benefit.
So I guess coming back to my question, this is Dave Strohmeyer. Before we take action, ought that to be baked into the resolution? Or do we need some reference to some associated document or
I think it would be very beneficial if the commissioners could consider the actual objective data that supports the preference. So in sum, yes, Dave, I think it would be helpful if it was baked into the resolution.
So some data on the wealth gap and things like that?
Correct.
So we need to rewrite the resolution? Is that what is being suggested?
I am suggesting that it would be beneficial to better show what the basis is for giving the procurement, hearing what the community is stating about concerns with it.
Okay. So
Brian, you're concerned that someone could come forth and say there actually isn't inequity, there is no wealth gap, people of color and women earn the same wages as men and are in similar positions of power in business and government?
I mean, that is certainly a concern. Anytime that we're talking about preferences that are based on gender, are based on minorities, I would prefer to see the objective data placed into it.
So I mean, one option would be, well, to the extent that this is what we're contemplating is nothing particularly unique. This is something the federal government does already. One option would be that we withdraw the motion today and that language be built into an amended version of the resolution and then brought back before us. Would that?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Does that satisfy? I'm sorry, Brian, I interrupted you. Does that satisfy?
Yes.
Okay.
So Brian, would you be willing to work with our auditor to make sure we get it to your satisfaction?
Certainly will.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll get with Brian, who I enjoy working with a lot too. So yeah, we'll get together and make sure that he's comfortable with the language of the resolution and bring it back to you.
So what's our process? Do we need to withdraw this? Is there a motion?
Imagine so. Or I see Jason Emery has his hand up.
Just a quick comment, just a thought that I had along these lines kind of follows with what Brian said. And I think we talked about it when Dave first brought this up was, does it make sense to Brian's point, to track this ongoing as part of your resolution, to see how effective it is? I think Dave Strohmeyer mentioned that get to a point where, you feel like this is not necessary, like it's accomplished its goals. Does it make sense to bake some of that subjective measurement into it long going? Just a thought.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to track what our vendors are like. If we will this increase the participation of these kind of businesses in doing business with Missoula County? I definitely think we should track that. Do you think we ought to actually put that within the resolution, in the language of the resolution?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure the proper way to do it. It's just a thought that popped in my head. It's probably my MPA nerdiness with performance measurement that I took a whole class on. So I like subjective. I'm a kind of a technical guy. So it's just food for thought for the decision makers is all.
So I guess back to Juanita's question, and I don't know who out there might be able to answer this, Chris, and just procedurally, would it be advisable for Juanita to just withdraw the motion?
Dave, yeah, it's Chris Lonsbury. I think that would be fine, and to postpone the item.
Great. I move to withdraw the motion, postpone, and looking forward to what Wall and West and Emery come up with.
There we go. Thanks, everybody. So we don't need to vote on that, right?
You do not.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Brian.
And thanks, Dave Wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, next up is Kara Hansen. Kara, I believe you're on mute.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that. So this is our annual contract with DPHHS and the Healthy Montana Families office there for our evidence-based home visiting programs. And up until this year, it was just for Nurse Family Partnership, which I supervise. We are just an aside, we are in the year 5 of our funding cycle with this funding. So we are in an RFP year, but this is something we've been signing all along. The difference this year is that, like I just said, this contract has just been for the Nurse Family Partnership Program, and this year the state has added funding. So it's about little over $76,000 more than last year to add another program. Using the Parents as Teachers model, and in collaboration with Child and Family Services to implement the First Years Initiative program. So we've added another home visitor and a different home visiting model, and then a little bit of my time and some overhead costs into this contract. And just also to let you know that when we were presented by the Healthy Montana Families Office with this opportunity, we worked pretty closely with our community partners who are also providing other home visiting services to make sure that we had room in our community for another service, and that everyone was in support of us bringing this service to Missoula. And also we worked very closely with Child and Family Services to make sure that they had the referrals for us to support being able to implement this program. Any questions?
This is great. Thanks. I remember it.
Oh, Dave, you're on mute.
Of course I am. How many times have we heard that in the past few months? So let me take a try at making a motion, and hopefully we can bring this through to fruition. So I'd move that we authorize the chair to sign the task order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Kara.
And Billy, we have a concessionaire agreement with the fairgrounds. Oh, is Billy not here?
Hey,
Oh, he's
hi
here.
there, it's Emily. Billy's hopping on. Sorry, we're having a technical issue. Yeah. Could you skip our item and come back? She's having a technical problem.
No problem.
What next? Bottling?
Huh?
Railroad? Oh, sorry. Yep. Bottling. No, it's the railroad crossing improvement agreement.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Shane Stack. There he is.
Good morning. You've got before you an agreement between MRL, MDT, and Missoula County, and I can share a screen just to kind of give you a sense of where this is going to be. But what we're being offered is essentially a crossing upgrade for railroad crossing on Dayshaw Lane. So can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So kind of zoom in here, you can see Roller Coaster Road, and this is Dayshaw here. I'm going to change screen, but you can see the railroad comes kind of right through here, and this is the Dayshaw Lane crossing. So this is actually an older photo. This is paved now, but these crossings are still here. And so what we're going to get out of this opportunity is updated signals with gates and arms. So when a train comes, now we'll have the gates that come down and kind of helps to block people from getting on the tracks. They'll also update this control cabinet and put new features in there. So the benefit for us is all of this stuff is done for free with funding through the feds and MDT and MRL. The county really just has to agree to provide some funding for essentially repairs if the new gates and arms get hit or damaged. MRL will maintain the system. So yeah, it's kind of a good deal for us.
Shane, what will the material be? Will the actual right at the crossing be upgraded or replaced to have concrete spacers between the tracks, or what's happening there?
Yeah, great question, Dave. So again, this surfacing has already been done, and we've got an update for you guys on Monday as far as all the surfacing crossings with MRL. I believe this one actually already is concrete. If it's not, it's on the list to be replaced and updated, but that's not going to be part of it. It's just the signals, gates, the controller. I can't remember what else. It's a handful of things. I can show you the agreement here. Yeah, the engineering installation, the LED lights and gates and arms, and then the signal bungalow. So there's no crossing surface.
The signal bungalow.
I know.
That's quite homey sounding. Okay.
It's disappointing when you see this, but you hear the word bungalow.
It's a craftsman style bungalow. Yeah.
Rent that one on the lake.
Well, I move. I don't have any. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Just a really quick comment. It's great to see the development that's happened in this area, the paving and now the upgrading of this crossing. So we're making some headway in this part of our valley.
Yeah. I move that we approve the railroad crossing improvement agreement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Thanks, Shane.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
it appears that Billy is back. Oh, but you're muted.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Oh, that's better.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. So we are we sent out an RFP process to both all bottling agencies to provide concession beverages for the fairgrounds. And as part of our renovations, the design of the piece and the counterweight, everything was considered, and the machines that would make ice and everything, it's a long-term solution. So they, we had Pepsi come through and they signed the agreement, and we have it before you. There's no cost to the county. The cost is actually direct to the vendors as they buy the product, but we're just, Pepsi's installing the machines themselves. And that's, then the vendors actually incur the cost as they need it. And then the product is part of our process to reduce trash here at the fairgrounds. So it only goes in compostable cups, and any product that they open then can be returned to Pepsi. That is unopened, I should say.
So Billy, do we rent space to the folks? I mean, can we generate any income off this?
Yes, so when the vendors have their sales, we take a percentage on that, all their sales. If they're
Great.
nonprofit, we take 17%. If they're profit, we take 20%. So yeah, this is just us providing them a way of having their, so as this only applies to the 8 newly constructed vendor concession areas. So if someone has their own truck and everything, they can provide the beverages of their choice, as long as they are within the guidelines of our 0 by 50 initiative.
Great, thank you.
Wait, so Billy, okay, the unsold product, that's the nonprofit returns the unsold product, or?
Right, so basically if they didn't open the product, they can return it back to Pepsi. And we're just totally out of the loop. Like, we have no liabilities. Okay. Since the vendor bought the product from Pepsi, and then when they can recoup their costs if they didn't use the product, you know, it's just, we're literally just, yeah, we're just out of it, yeah.
Okay.
But this, in order to do it where we could install the machine, we had to find a machine that would work in the space, make, you know, generate the ice and on all of that. So we have that now with Pepsi. And they're putting that in at their cost. And they're taking, and they're also, it's all their cost to maintenance it.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. Well, I would move that we approve the PSA with Missoula Bottling Company.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Billy.
Hey, Emily, is there any chance we could get a tour sometime of the construction going on out at the fairgrounds?
Love that.
Yeah, so on, would you believe it, but construction is delayed. I mean, I've never heard of, that never happens. Yeah, so October 15th, we have a hard deadline with our landscape, the company involved installing the landscape and irrigation. And so I think after then would be a great time. We're going to be doing some filming for a fundraising movie for the foundation on the 15th. So right after that, we'd love to have you out. It'll look really good. And then all of the leaves will fall. So the trees are going in now. It's looking so good. You guys are going to love it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Oh
my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so excited. And just to follow up on, so that you're clear on the concession agreement, the concessions, there are 8 concessions that are nonprofit concessions, includes the fort. We did get them in there, and then some of our longtime folks like All Nations and Rocky Mountaineers, and then we the reason why we went with Pepsi was because actually Coke originally had the better score, but they couldn't get the right size equipment and they withdrew their proposal. And so Pepsi's been a wonderful partner for us. We love working with them, and we're really happy to continue with our relationship with them. And it may be that sometime in the future we end up doing another RFP for the entire fairgrounds that includes all, the entire fair. But for now, this is just the new concessions.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right, so now we're gonna jump back to Shane.
All right. This item is basically a contract amendment with Transmap, who has provided a pavement management system for us. Essentially, that's been completed, and we'll go through that on Monday with you. I had intended on visiting with you on this Monday, but we talked a lot about Kerwald, so we never did make it to Transmap and the pavement management system, but we'll cover it on Monday. The original fee was $41,000, and that basically kind of covered this first year, and that was the data collection, putting together. So that's all done now. What we need them to do over the next 5 years is, as we improve our roads, do overlays, chip seals, things like that, we share that information with Transmap. Then they update the model, and they can send us an annual report on what they think our pavement conditions are, what we should be spending on our pavements in the future. So in 5 years, what we'd like them to do is come back and reevaluate in person again all the roads, and they can basically with that information, then they can modify their deterioration models to conform better with what we're seeing out here on the ground. So essentially what we're doing is just adding $10,000 onto the contract for them to update our reports annually when we send them information on what we've done with the roads. So any questions?
Will they help us when we get the results and we're terrified by how much money it would actually cost to fix everything?
Josh will cover that Monday. Yeah, we'll cover it Monday. It's expensive when you look at the paved surfaces. Some of their models are showing we need to be spending $4 million a year on our pavements, and we spend $400,000 a year on our pavements. So,
Shane, wasn't there some question though as to whether or not, when it comes to at least the price piece of this, that their modeling may be somewhat off from what we actually anticipate needing to spend for some of those projects?
Yeah, so I kind of put my own model together based on kind of a concept of, let's say you do an overlay in year one. Technically, by year two, you should do a chip seal. And depending on the use of that roadway, whether it's a residential street versus an arterial or a collector, you should be doing a chip seal in 5 to 7 years on a higher volume roadway. But a residential street, a lower volume roadway, maybe you ought to be doing a chip seal in 10 years, right? So the use is going to dictate that. I came up with closer to something around maybe $2 million if we were really appropriate with a scheduled maintenance program with each one of those systems, whether it's a collector or a residential street. And so, Dave, I kind of wonder, what their deterioration model looks like. I don't know that it's super accurate, but it's also stuff that they're using in other communities in Montana and northern climates. So I don't know. We'll see. I think in 5 years, that'll give them a better baseline to go with, because they can look and see what did they have originally for the condition of the roads, the pavement condition index for all those roads. What have we done and how much money have we spent on it? And then what are the pavement condition indexes in 5 years when they come back and measure it? And so with that, I think they can refine their deterioration model. As far as prices go, we gave them prices, what our costs are to do overlays, chip seals, crack seals, and things like that. And so they're putting that data in. We had long conversations with them about it. And I know the city looked at their numbers too and thought it was a little high. I think they're a little high, but we'll see.
Well, suffice it to say, even with the stack model, we're not investing as much as we probably need to.
No, but it gives us a target, right? It gives us something to shoot for. You know, we've been spending $400,000 a year on our pavements, you know, for say the last 10 years or longer probably, and because we haven't been able to, you know, spend the money on those pavements, and they're deteriorating faster than we can keep up. So we're going to have to pay now to bring them back up to where they should be.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm moved to approve the contract amendment with Transmap.
Second.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Shane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb Bell.
She's on the phone. She says her video freezes. But I can't hear her.
I can't hear either.
Well, we heard about this on, was it Monday?
We did. We did.
I feel pretty good about moving forward with this.
Good.
With or without Deb, and
Thanks, Dave. I remember it as well. I think we can.
yeah, so I would.
Yes, okay. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I would move that we approve the resolution of acceptance of the petition of inclusion between RSID 901 and Al Zepeda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Al can turn the water on.
And we also heard about number 7. Is that also Deb?
Yes, yes, I remember that too. We're expanding that area on which the RSID could deliver water.
I thought we had already done this. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
And it was done with science behind it, an actual hydrologist.
And a hydrogeologist. So
Holy
yes,
cow.
I motion that we approve the contract with Newfields for hydrogeology and hydrology services for the Lolo RSID 901
Second.
to assist with DNRC place of use permit for this water system.
I'll second that too.
Oops.
And Annie's got her hand up.
Sorry, Commissioners, I was just going to confirm, yes, you guys had saw this previously. We just had to do it in a resolution format. So that's why it's before you again.
Oh, thanks, Annie.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay, Kayla, you have a handful of these.
Yeah, hi, good morning. So I do have 6 contracts in front of you today, and they all will be funded under the Financial Admin Fund. And if it's okay with you 3, I could just go through all of them together.
Great.
Okay, perfect. So I have items 8 through 13. Number 8 is for a contract with Child Development Center for $7,000, and this will assist them in providing autism evaluations for children 4 years or younger. And they also provide educational and referral support for caregivers for these children who are diagnosed with autism. And then item number 9 is a contract with Missoula Art Museum for $200,000. And this is just continuing support for the operational expenses for their programming and visual arts education. Number 10 is with the City of Missoula's Office of Housing Community Development Office to support their emergency winter shelter program for $50,000. Number 11 is a contract with Missoula Urban Transportation District for $20,000. And this is to support their zero fare services. They have seen a continuing increase, about 70% since 2015 when they started. And this $20,000 will provide a local match for their federal funding that they receive. Number 12 is also with Missoula Urban Transportation District for $20,000, and this is for their paratransit and shuttle van services. They are also seeing an increase in requests for this service as well. Number 13 is also with the City of Missoula's Office of Housing and Community Development for $35,000, and this is to support the Reaching Home Coordinator as the coordinator helps reach the goals of the 10-year plan to end homelessness. And I think that's it. Yeah, all 13, the 6 of them. Any questions on those?
No, these are all items that we, yeah, we've discussed all of this before, so I'd move items that we approve items 8 through 13.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks so much, Kayla.
Okay, we have a, Chris, are you gonna handle this one?
Yeah, this is an employment agreement for a nurse who's been with Partnership Health Center. She's moving over to be their clinic informatics, which is a fun word to say for me, administrator over at Partnership. So she's working, as you know, they do a lot of data analysis and mining in Partnership because they, as part of their federal grants, they're required to provide a bit of qualitative and quantitative data around how their patient outcomes are. And so they're continuing to expand those services. And so this is the move for her. She's been a registered nurse with us for a number of years, over into that division and moving her to an employment contract. So it is a new employment contract, but for an existing employee. This does use their standard template, so no changes from our normal employment agreement as far as that goes, but it is technically a new agreement just with an existing employee moving into a new role.
I move to approve the standard employment, this new standard employment agreement between Cassandra Kevron and Missoula County. No, partner, PHC, sorry.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Sarah.
Good morning. We have 2 boards this morning. The first is the Election Advisory Committee. So I hope you all have your notes from the interview. Do you have your notes?
I need a few seconds. I gotta find.
Do you have them?
Yeah, I've got them here.
Good work.
Doesn't look like Bradley or Nathan are on the line. I thought they would be joining us to help provide some feedback, but they're not on. So do you feel okay going forward with the appointments?
Well, with one exception, the student position, I think I have not heard back from Bradley on this, but there was some question as to whether or not the one student we interviewed actually satisfies the requirement of being a student. Did you get any more word back on that, Sarah?
I did.
They did.
So she technically is not a student currently. The way we wrote the motion was that her term would start January 1st.
Okay.
She will be an official student at that time. If you feel okay with, the start of her term until then. I personally think if you feel like she's a solid candidate, Bradley seems supportive of her. We've had this position advertised for quite some time and didn't get any other applications. So if she sounds like she's involved with the board already, if you feel okay, I would suggest starting her term in January when she fulfills that student requirement.
Yep, she was
good. She was super solid.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And remind me, which one of these was the student?
So the student's Madison Grace Donor.
Okay, that's right. Okay, do you want me to take a swing at?
Yeah, please do.
Making a motion here, so I would move that we appoint Madison as the student board member, that we appoint Kathy Nygaard as the alternate, and that the 3 at-large members be Christina Barsky, Amber Schaefer, and Susan Favreau. Does that, based on your notes, do those sound like a good slate of candidates?
Okay, yes, I'm just trying to remember the discussion around Aaron Miller.
Well, Aaron is, she's going to be engaged however you cut it. With
Thank you.
Ford, Montana.
Thank you. Yep, okay.
And if I remember right, it was the combo of her already kind of occupational engagement with the process and that we were looking for some rural representation.
That's exactly right. And I think it was it Susan? It's from
Susan.
Yeah, Petty Creek or somewhere. Yeah, and I would, so that's my motion. And I would just say that we had an exceptional group of folks to choose from, and maybe even broke a record in terms of the number of applicants for these positions.
And they were, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Just to clarify with the motion, for the at-large members, we have a partial term starting today through January of 2023, which is a pretty decent amount of term. But for the other two at-large members, the term ends in January of 2021, so they would only just have a few months of that term. So in the motion, I added for those two terms that they would automatically be reappointed or appointed to a full 3-year term. So I don't know if you want to be specific as to who fills those little bit longer terms in your motion.
I have no preference. What about you two?
I want Christina Barsky as long as possible.
Okay, here we go.
That's my only, yeah.
Okay, I will accept that as an amendment. Do we need to? Was there one more we needed to slide into a longer term scenario?
Yes, please. Yep, between Amber Schaefer and Susan Fabro.
How about Amber?
Amber.
Yep, that sounds great.
Yep, agree.
Okay, let's do that.
Dave, thanks so much for having these names like right at the ready. Nice job.
It was pure happenstance in this pile of rubbish on my desk. So.
All right, is that a motion?
Yep, that was my motion.
Okay.
Second. Sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay, let's bust this next one out.
All right.
1 minute.
It should be quick. So the Open Land Citizen Advisory Committee, we had a member resign due to just his other commitments. He didn't have the time for the board. So Jonathan Bowler resigns in August. So this is just a bit of housekeeping, moving first alternate Mark Laporco up to fill that regular member term. So it's just to move Mark up to fill that regular member term so their committee is complete. And then come November, we'll advertise for the remainder alternate vacancy and the other terms that will be coming to end of the year. But we wanted to get this housekeeping taken care of. So the motion is that he'll fill the term through the end of this year and then automatically be rolled over to a new term because it's just that little chunk of time again. So.
Great.
It's a bummer to lose Jonathan. I think he's actually moving to Wyoming. That's what
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet it was some fancy pants conservation job. Lured him away. I'm just guessing.
Oh, I move that we appoint OLC first alternate Mark Laparco as a regular member.
Yeah, Mark's a great person. We're lucky to have him.
Lucky to have him. Yep.
Yep, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any correspondence? How about discussion items, upcoming board meetings, reviewed meetings, comments, instructions, etc.? Any communications needs and requests?
I don't have anything, but I'm just wondering if we have members of the media on still who have any questions.
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking.
Looks like Cameron's still on. I don't know if Martin is.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. I've just been listening.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
I have
and
something.
Anne's got something.
Just something cool to share. I know we're all kind of just over time, but I just got a great photo from Jason Emery of the courthouse arch that was being replaced in the
nice.
courthouse there, and I thought you might like to see a picture of it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Okay.
it.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, it's still in
is
process.
really nice. God, what great work.
That's a pretty amazing.
Who did that woodwork?
Well, Jackson, I can't remember who their sub is, but
Jeez, it's beautiful.
yeah, I just thought you might like to see that nice photo today.
And you must feel so good. Like, how long have you been working on this?
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
She was in 8th grade when she began.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I have a birthday next month, so I will take that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
nice.
I just wanted to show you that.
Thanks for that.
Thank
kid.
you. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, anything on global pandemics, wildfires, ball lightning, super volcanoes, seismic activity, tsunamis? Great. With that, we'll jump to our next thing. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See ya. Thanks.